Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from the sixth group, so today we going to talk about the role of the pragmatic in discourse analysis. What's the means for English language teaching? The key idea is that understanding a language is not only about the grammar or the sentence structure, but also about how meaning works in content, what speakers intend, and how listeners interpret it. So, I'm not only me to explain our material today. I have a partner, Aldo, and also Talita. Next, aha, communication is more than grammar. In real life, successful communication depends on the meaning and also the context. This is where pragmatic become essential. It connects what is said with that they actually mean. If learning focuses only on grammar, maybe students or a lot of people may experience pragmatic failure. They produce grammatically correct sentence, but they sound inappropriate or unclear in a particular situation. That's why teaching should include pragmatic awareness, so the learners can build true communicative competence. How? So in the next presentation, we will going to discuss together with my friend. But before that, in this slide, we are highlight the gap between saying and meaning between the literal meaning of the words and the speaker's real intention. Human communication doesn't stop at the grammatically only or correct sentence. We can think of the grammar and also the blueprint of the structure, but pragmatics in the interpretative, they can help us understand what the message really means. So in our material, especially in the discourse analysis, we need to so and then everyone, we can focus in this slide. In this slide focuses on the key teaching challenge. Actually, many learners can produce the sentence that are significantly concrete, but the may still struggle with the social and cultural appropriateness, and also as a result, they may face pragmatic failures that they don't recognize or use expression and that fit the context. It can lead to misunderstandings, of course, sometimes with other people. And in cross-cultural communication, it may even be perceived as is polite, and this often happens because English classes emphasize grammatically competence more than the ability to use language in contextual appropriate way. And the next presentation will be delivered by my friend Aldo. Time is yours, and don't forget to focus in our presentation. And in the end, we can discuss or you can asking something if you don't understand in the comment. Okay, bye bye.
Okay, first of all, I'm gonna explain the concept of the pragmatic approach in discourse analysis. First is defining the two key concepts discourse analysis in pragmatic. First, the text defines the two main fields we are working with. What I mean by that is discourse analysis, the detective's strategy. This is the study of language in use. It's not interested in single isolated sentence. Instead, it looks at how we connect sentence to build coherent text and conversation in real-life social situation. It examines how language functions to create meaning, reflect social reality, and get things done with the word in the big picture view. Pragmatic, the detective toolkit. It is like pragmatic is more specific. It's the study of speaker meaning. It focuses on what speakers intend to communicate with. Is often more than what their words literally say. It's about the meaning behind the word. It answers the question, how do listeners figure out the speaker's intention in particularly context. And secondly, It's the relationship, how they work together, or like synergy. What I mean by that is the most important point in this section is that discourse analysis and pragmatic have a synergy relationship, meaning they are stronger and more effective when used together. You can't really do one without the other. Like discourse analysis provide the macro level framework. It looks at the whole conversation or text, like the entire crime scene. Also, like the pragmatic provides the micro level analysis instrument. It over that the tools to interpret specific entrance or clues within that conversation. The text describe a pragmatic and critical lens or toolkit or the discourse analysis. This toolkit allows the analysis to go beyond a surface level description of grammar, uncover the deeper intention, assumption, and social function happening in discourse. And the third one is the practical example and how are we feeling today. Example like the utterance a doctor say to a patient, like how are we feeling today. The surface level analysis without pragmatic, if you only look at the grammar, this is simply what is that name, a question it grammatically correct, but this analysis is very like superficial and missed the point. Discourse analysis with a pragmatic lens. A pragmatic approach reveals multiple layers of a function. The pronoun we, the doctor use, we not because the doctor is also sick, but to establish rapport and sense of shared experience. It creates a team. We are in this situation together and you're gonna be okay. The function of the question, the doctor likely already has the patient medical record, so the question is not purely for seeking new information. Its primary function is a conversational opening and that give the patient the space to voice their concern in their own word. Its speech act of showing care. Okay, next we move to section B, language, context, and discourse. The main ideas, the golden rules of pragmatic. The most fundamental principle in this section is the meaning is not inside the words themselves. Meaning is create the language and context interact. What I mean by that is imagine a word like a fire by itself. It has a dictionary meaning, but if someone yells like fire in a crowded theater, it means like run or there's a danger. Or like some commander yells like a fire to soldier, it means that shot your guns. The word is the same, but the context change its entire meaning and function. These ideas challenge the old way of thinking structural, which saw the language as self-contained a system of rules like math. Instead of a pragmatic says that discourse language in action is dynamic product of language being used in real life situation. And secondly, the three inseparable element, language, context, and also discourse. You cannot separate these three things, like they work together. What I mean by that is language, there are tools, the word, a phrase, and sentence we use. And context, this is the situation of the word in which the language is used in the background settings that give the word their true meaning. And discourse, this is the final product. It is the actual conversation, the text are communicative, even that they happen when you use a language in a specific context. It is not a collection of sentences, it is a purposeful event with a social function. And the third one is a deeper look at the context, the two main types. A, situation context. This is in immediate, like cycle and temporal setting, thing like of it's answering the question, like who is speaking whom, participant rules, and also like where and when it's happening, settings, and what kind of activity it's going on, like activity types. And also example, the text, like the first example in one scenario, meaning this is disciplinary, directive, or common. The power relationship, teacher is more powerful than student, and the institutional role, teacher jobs is main order guide to interpretation. And second scenario is one college says this to another during the meeting break, like the meaning polite invitation or a private conversation, the relationship is more equal and setting is less formal. And a B, background knowledge and context. This is the invisible information, the shared knowledge, belief, and assumption that speaker bring to the conversation. It's also called common ground. This includes, first of all, is cultural knowledge, things that people from the same culture generally know. And secondly is interpersonal knowledge, specific knowledge shared between two more people based on their past experience together. Successful communication depends on like how much common ground on the participants share. And the third is the power of context in action. It's called in your example. What I mean by that is, first example, the dinner guest, a guest that party says to the house, like someone who have the party. The function is an indirect request. The guest is politely asking the host to do like something like close the window, turn up the heat without giving the direction command like close the window, which might sound rude. And example 2 is meteorologist. A scientist in climate control lab say like while celebrating equipment, like the function is genuinely described statement the professional role and scientific activity constantly the meaning to be purely like informative, like it's piece of the data, not a request. And the third one is the teenager. A teenager said like this to a parent in a flat tone while watching TV. The function is it could be like a complaint or hint based on the background knowledge of a family dynamic who usually does what in the house, and might be indirect way of saying like I wish you would adjust the thermostat. And the fifth one is two final important point. Context creates meaning. The example show that context is not just supplementary information that adds in little extra flavor. The text says like a context is constitutive of meaning, like like the text, which means it's actively create the meaning. Without the context, the meaning doesn't fully exist. The two relationship is a context shape the language interpretation, as we've seen in all of the example that I've said it before. And secondly is language use also shapes create the context. Example from the text, when a teacher asks like can anyone explain the mitosis, and she isn't just asking about the information, but she is using language construction and pedagogical context. She established that the role she is tester, student are knowledge displayer, like, and create expectation for certain types of answer.
Okay, now we move into pragmatic in classroom discourse. In this section, we will look at how pragmatic concepts such as context, speech acts, presupposition, and implicature actually occur in classroom interaction and what their implications are for English language teaching. Okay, the first one is pragmatic in classroom discourse. Classroom interaction is a very distinctive type of discourse. There are different roles. The teacher as the authority and source of knowledge, and student as learners. The goals are also clear: delivering knowledge, developing skills, and shaping academic socialization. Because of this, classroom interaction tends to follow particular patterns. Understanding the pragmatic dimension of classroom talks help us see how teaching and learning are accomplished through language, and how pragmatic competence can be systematically developed in language learners. And then the second one is pragmatic features of teacher talks. Teachers use a wide variety of speech acts, directives, questions, explanations, evaluation, and so on. Interestingly, the linguistic form does not always indicate the actual function. Let's talk about the directive first. Teachers sometimes use direct imperatives such as open your books, work in pairs, but very often they choose softer or more indirect forms such as would you mind being quiet? Could we have everyone's attention? Grammatically, these are questions, but their function is a command. Students understand the intent meaning because they recognize the classroom context and the teacher's authority. Questions in the IRE patterns. Teacher questions often do not seek information but aim to evaluate student in knowledge. The classic pattern is IRE, initiation, response, and evaluation. For examples, what is the capital of France? In a classroom setting, this is not an information question but an assessment. That is why answering I don't know may be pragmatically inappropriate in a way it wouldn't be in an ordinary conversation. And then, presupposition. Teachers use presupposition to build continually between lessons. For example, as we discussed yesterday, as we discussed before, the sentence assumes that students remember previous materials and links it with the new topic. Another topic is developing a learner's pragmatic competence. Communicative competence involves not only grammar but also social appropriateness. Without pragmatic awareness, learners may experience pragmatic failure, grammatically correct sentences that are inappropriate in context. For examples, Indonesian learners who transfer direct request form into English may sound too blunt. Pragmatic needs to be taught explicitly. Common approaches include meta-pragmatic instruction. Teachers explain the function, social context, and cultural variation of certain forms. For examples, different ways to make requests depending on power on social distance. And then, input enhancement, showing learners authentic interaction such as video clips and analyzing speech acts, context and politeness, and also strategies. Structured practice, role play with specific scenarios like apologizing, refusing politely, giving tactful criticism. These help learners match linguistic choices to situational demands. And then, analysis of authentic materials. Learners examine news, films, advertisement, or business emails to identify their presupposition and implication. And then discussing risks of pragmatic failure. Teachers point out how well-intentioned expression can be misinterpreted because of pragmatic mismatch. And then applying pragmatic concept in teaching. The first one is teaching speech acts. Teachers show how advice or suggestion can be expressed directly or indirectly. Then, ask learners to choose appropriate forms for specific contexts. And then, teaching presuppositions. Through contrastive examples, learners identify what information is assumed in different sentences. Another one is teaching conversational implication. Simple dialogues illustrate how meaning can be conveyed to the not stated directly. And this topic is the classroom as a site of pragmatic learning. Teachers can turn real classroom instruction into pragmatic learning opportunities. For example, when a student uses a form that is too direct, the teacher pauses to offer other expressions. Teachers can also be model their own pragmatic reasoning through think aloud while giving feedback. And the last one is technology for pragmatic learning. Video recording, digital corpora, and interactive simulation provide rich, authentic input for learning pragmatics. Assessing pragmatic competence. Some assessment methods include discourse completion tasks, role-play assessment, pragmatic awareness tasks. This assess how well learners choose contextually appropriate language. And then, challenge in integrating pragmatics. Common challenges include teachers lacking pragmatic training, curriculum focus on grammar, variation in pragmatic norms across contexts, because English is used internationally. Some scholars suggest teaching pragmatic variably instead of single native speaker form. Norm. I think that's all for me. Thank you.